And we are back. And no, I'm not going to name drop anything this week. I want you to know that.
Well, because you did so much last week.
Yeah,
I think we got a lot of emails about that.
I hit my quota. No, we didn't. But you know what, Mark? We're going to dive right into it. We still have tons to do. The whole Oscar aftermath continues.
It does?
Yeah, it sure does. Look what comes out this week. Look what we got this week.
What do we have this week, Wade?
Big Short.
The Big Short.
Get right into it.
Won 2 Oscars.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Wait, what was the second one?
Wait, it won adapted screenplay.
It didn't get a second one. It just got adapted screenplay.
Oh, really?
That's all I got. A lot of people were picking it for Best Picture, but I told them.
It won something else?
No. The Spotlight won 2, which is the fewest of any film winning Best Picture since 1952 in the DeMille Greatest Show on Earth monstrosity. But you know what? Big Short, one of my favorite films of the year. Really great. Really terrific.
You know what? It's
a great film.
It's a very difficult subject that he did not shy away from. Not only did he not shy away from its complexities, he dove right in the most creative way possible.
Let me just point out, Adam McKay is an Oscar winner.
You mean the guy who wrote, like whatever, Anchorman?
I mean, yeah, the guy who's done all of Will Ferrell's like shticky shtick is an Oscar winner.
I know.
It's so weird. It just, you never know where talent's going to come out in this business. It's so strange. I mean, this is such an accomplished film. It's not just funny, but here's the thing. They took a book that is essentially a textbook. It's like taking a textbook. It's like taking a financial textbook and turning it into an entertaining movie. It's like somebody hands you a book and says, "Here's a law textbook on litigating divorce. I'd like for you to write Romeo and Juliet."
It is one of those weird films where, like, it's so complex, and the moment you hear something explained, you understand it, but then when they bring it up again 20 minutes later, you forgot what it meant.
It does so many daring things. It takes something that is still really an open wound for a lot of people, the financial crisis of 2008, and it takes all of the financial complexities of that thing and multiple different storylines that never really intersect. I mean, you have all these different people doing things. You got Steve Carell, and he's doing his thing, and then you've got Christian Bale, and he's doing his thing, and then you got the 2 guys that are doing their little thing with Brad Pitt, and all these different stories. And then you whenever you feel like it's getting a little too complicated, hey, let's have an actor play him or herself and explain a term and break the fourth wall. It's so daring and it's so risky, and it winds up being so entertaining and yet so upsetting at the same time.
It's true, and it's actually a great bookend film with 99 Homes.
Yeah,
which I enjoyed immensely.
Yeah, this would be a great double feature with 99 Homes. You see both sides of it, and Christian Bale, man, that guy just kills it in this.
Oh yeah, he kills it in everything. He's Christian Bale.
He's so good. Anyway, you got to get it. This is just one of the best films of last year. Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultraviolet. Take it with you anywhere. Adam McKay. Freaking Adam McKay is an Oscar winner. So amazing to me. And Brad Pitt for producing this thing. God bless you. Another new Regency, by the way. This is also Arnon Milchan. Not just
that
the
guy.
Revenant.
He's won that guy's won like a couple Best Picture Oscars.
He
won
12 Years a Slave.
12 Years a Slave
and Birdman. And then this year he had this in Revenant. It's just unbelievable.
Cray.
Deleted scenes, little bits on the casting and behind the scenes and featurettes. It's all good stuff. All really, really good stuff. No commentary, but it's really good.
Well,
yes, sir.
So the guy who wrote the story, who got a story credit for Get Hard, with Will Ferrell, and Kevin Hart, just won an Oscar. Adam McKay.
There you go. It's crazy. It's nutty.
It's goofy.
And then my favorite film, my favorite English language film of last year, which was nominated for a few Oscars, not for director or picture, I'm sad to say, but it was nominated for 6 in other categories, including screenplay and actress and supporting actress, cinematography, costume design, and score, and it deserved them all. Didn't win anything, but that's okay because it's a great film, and it's the best film that Todd Haynes has ever done, and that's Carol, which I just thought was amazing. Shot on Super 16, by the way. This is the first Super 16 film to ever get an Oscar nomination for cinematography.
And it's gorgeous.
It's phenomenal. I mean, they did it on purpose. It's not like they were cheap. They just wanted to recreate the shimmer and the sheen of the 1950s, make it look like a 1950s, kind of Douglas Sirk thing.
And I bet there was an impulse to go digital, because with
sure
digital everything looks all beautiful and shiny and pristine.
Well, anyway, this is an adaptation of The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith. Anyone who knows Patricia Highsmith knows she is a favorite of thriller directors. Obviously, the Ripley stories have been done a number of times by many different directors, most recently by Anthony Minghella, talented Mr. Ripley. And, of course, Hitchcock loved her, and she and Hitchcock had many, Strangers on a Train, and many similar sensibilities about these creepy Claude Chabrol, of course, has adapted Highsmith. So, she was a great thriller writer, but this is basically a lesbian romance with Cate Blanchett as the older married woman and Rooney Mara as the younger woman, and all of the ways in which this weaves itself into their other lives. Phyllis Nage did a tremendous adaptation of the book. Her screenplay is perfect. Haynes' direction is perfect. I mean, it's just the whole film is so sensitive and nuanced. It's absolutely wonderful. Highsmith, of course, as an individual, was someone of rather questionable character. She was
anti-Semite,
known to be anti-Semitic, and quite likely a Nazi sympathizer, bisexual, and really, by all accounts, rather mean and unkind to most people around her. However, Phyllis Nage would debate that and contends that Highsmith was, before she passed, was very encouraging to her. She told her to, go for it. And this film is basically the culmination of that. So whatever you think of Highsmith personally, this is a hell of a film, and has a couple of high-powered producers behind it as well, and Christine Vachon and Stephen Woolley. No slouches, either one of them. So I just love this film. I can't get enough. The Blu-ray is gorgeous. The cinematography is preserved. It's just my favorite English language film of last year. And the only film I think I liked better, we will also be talking about, but that's a foreign language film.
Oh, you mean Sisters with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler?
Nope.
Sisters continues Tina Fey's streak of films that are not as funny as she is.
Speaking of, we're right now in the second week of Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Did you see it?
I did.
What'd you think?
I didn't like it.
I didn't either.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. It's like they're trying to do. It's like they're trying to do MASH meets Private Benjamin meets Catch-22, and it doesn't really.
The funny stuff and then the dramatic stuff.
I couldn't figure out if she was trying to be funny and failing, or if she was trying to be dramatic and failing. I couldn't figure out which of the.
Well, at first I thought maybe the two directors, who I am fans of them, maybe they didn't trust the dramatic material enough just to be dramatic. Like, you know what it is? That blending of drama and comedy is very difficult.
Yeah.
As opposed to this film, which is either dramatic or funny.
And the point I made on radio, I think that that we're still too close to Afghanistan for that to be ironic. I don't think we can be ironic about that situation yet. MASH was almost 20 years after the Korean War ended. You can be ironic. Catch-22, even longer after.
If MASH was about Vietnam, it would be a little too much.
You can't. We're still too close to it. We're still too much in it, and it's impossible to be ironic if you're still that close.
And what's a little sad about Whiskey Tango is the fact that it's a real girl power kind of a film, because it's with Tina Fey and Margot Robbie. They play the reporters. They're both female. They're both great in their field. The network president in the film, woman.
Yeah.
Played by Cherry Jones.
Yeah.
So there's like a real girl power thing that they kind of didn't really mind that much.
No.
They didn't really mind that. I think that would have been interesting.
Well,
anyway, Sisters, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, we all love them. They play sisters, and they go home to clean out their childhood home after their family's going to sell the house. And they decide to live it up high school style one more time for a big party. It seemed like there was an opportunity here for like a lot of warmth and stuff about family, but in the end it just sort of went for just kind of lowest common denominator party stuff, and I just felt like it didn't really live up to its potential, And so this to me is just really a Saturday night rental. If there's nothing else going on, you can rent this, but you won't get much out of it.
Lame. And then we have a movie that was for a moment considered sort of a possible Oscar thing, wound up not being one, which was the Weinstein Company's release of Justin Kurzel's Macbeth. Macbeth comes around every once in a while in movies. Orson Welles and Polanski both took their stabs at it, both of which are better than this.
Well, here's the thing. as Shakespeare adaptation, it's fine, but it's beautifully shot. It's gorgeous.
But did you get the feeling that he really just wished that it was all battle scenes? That he'd prefer to not actually have any dialogue. He just would have. I mean, those battle scenes are great, and he really gets a thrill out of directing them.
You know what it is? I was reminded of Valhalla Rising, the Refn film.
Very much so.
You know,
had the same kind of vibe and the same. Yeah, it did. I mean, Michael Fassbender is terrific as Macbeth. He's really, really good. He has a much more angry, angsty take on it. Marion Cotillard, much as I absolutely adore her, I don't know that she's right for Lady Macbeth.
I don't either. There's that one soliloquy
right.
where it's just she was kneeling, I think, and the camera was looking up at her, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not sure that you're the right person for this.
Yeah, it didn't feel right to me. It just didn't. I mean, she gives it her best, but it doesn't feel right. Anyway, there's a featurette on here in a Q&A with Michael Fassbender, who might have gotten nominated for this if he hadn't have done Steve Jobs in the same year, but he did. Anyway, it's beautifully shot. It's not bad. It's certainly I don't think it's as good as the Wells or the Polanski films, but I would I saw the great West End production with Patrick Stewart, which is kind of a whole fascist environment, and it's very multimedia, and that thing was mind-blowing. I'd love for them to do a feature film of that particular production, really blow it out cinematically.
Okay, so for the record, it took Wade 7 minutes to name drop.
Oh, man, that wasn't named. I just said I saw it live. I saw the West End production. There's nothing... Right. Was that a bad thing?
No, it's but
it's me name dropping.
It's a little douchey, but whatever.
Okay,
it's who you are.
All right, and then real quick one for Easter and Passover coming up. It's big time for the Jews and the Christians, and people always find a way to release something that's very Passover-y and very Easter-y. And we have a really big deal. Actually, this is rather extraordinary. Shout has released on Blu-ray the complete Franco Zeffirelli production of Jesus of Nazareth, the miniseries, for its 40th anniversary on Blu-ray. And I was not a fan of this at the time, but again, that was the same year as Star Wars and Close Encounters, and I was a kid, and I didn't really want to see a miniseries. But you know what? Looking at it again, it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, I can quibble with bits of it. Robert Powell is a rather dour, kind of intimidating Jesus, but if you like that, he's very good at doing that. Anne Bancroft, James Ferrantino, James Earl Jones, Ernest Borgnine, Laurence Olivier, it's just James Mason, Christopher Plummer. Everyone shows up in this thing. Rod Steiger, Peter Ustinov, Michael York, Olivia Hussey. It's just unbelievable. Everybody shows up in this thing. And it is much better, I think, looking back, than I gave it credit for at the time. So, no extras particularly. There are a few new interviews on here. But otherwise, this is the complete Jesus of Nazareth miniseries from 1977. And it looks very, very good. It's about 7 hours long. But very, very good, I got to say. It's very, very good. It holds up. And then also on the more Passover-y end of things, we have the Bible Stories releases. You can get either Ben Kingsley in Moses or Richard Harris and Barbara Hershey in Abraham. You can get them separately. These are all Emmy-nominated, by the way. These were all really, quite highly acclaimed. Or you can get an actual boxed set which has the 4-movie collection of Abraham, Moses, Jacob, and Joseph. Abraham, Moses, Jacob, and Joseph, all in a boxed set. These productions are not bad. They're obviously very clearly low-budget television productions, but they are not terrible. And Ben Kingsley and Moses is actually much, much more convincing than was the Ridley Scott film of last year, which was just kind of a mess. So anyway, that's out there as well. So you should check those out. They have the Dove seal of approval. Those are also from Shout Factory.
Is it my turn to talk now?
Yes.
Okay.
By all means.
I have no names to drop. However, I can talk about American Horror Project. This thing annoyed me just by the title. It's called American Horror Project, as if like in Walmart, a bunch of conservatives will go into the store and go, "It's an American horror project. I love America. Go America." Like, who cares? Anyway, it's
as opposed to the Cuban Horror Project, which would
just be living there as a horror project.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a couple films that are a bit under the radar. They're not like Night of the Living Dead and the more famous ones, but there's still some stuff here. If you're a super duper horror aficionado, Carnival of Blood is from 1973, shot for like $1.98 in Philadelphia. Christopher Spieth is the guy who directed it. And it's pretty funky. It's definitely a film of its time because it's kind of kitschy and kind of performance arty, and there's like these kind of low budget gore effects. So that one is kind of interesting, if nothing else, because it's emblematic of its time. The other one is The Witch Who Came from the Sea, which is probably the best directed of the films, and it's about this woman who was she was abused as a child, and so she begins to kind of disassociate. And, she takes out her revenge on guys, a lot of them celebrities. So that's kind of interesting. It was shot by Dean Cundy, which is like a big deal.
Yeah.
Cundy
good DP.
He shot John Carpenter's The Thing and Back to the Future.
Yeah, it was a big deal in the 80s.
And this is 1976, a little bit earlier. Then we had The Premonition, which I didn't really like that much. It's kind of a little bit like Audrey Rose. So I would probably pass on that one. I would definitely get this if you're a fan of like deep horror in the sense of like, you want your 1970s era exploitation stuff. So we got that. We also have from the good folks at Arrow did a great job on a bad film called The Mutilator.
Yeah.
This is on DVD and Blu-ray. I have to say,
there's a book coming out on the whole Arrow collection, by the way, which we can talk about in a future show.
Arrow, they really knocked it out of the park. I mean, 2K restoration.
Yeah, these things are great.
It's the audio is not great. I mean, they do give you the original audio, the 1.1, which doesn't sound that great. But anyway, there's an audio commentary with Buddy Cooper, who produced it and directed it, and also wrote it. And there's alternate opening titles, and there's screen tests, which are pretty funny, and then there's behind the scenes reel, which is really super low budge but kind of funny. And the movie is pretty much about a mutilator.
Well, now, wait a minute. It's called The Mutilator. Mm-hmm. And you're saying it's about a mutilator?
That's what I'm saying.
That's amazing.
Anyway, the idea is that he stalks people with like this axe.
Read the byline.
This hook thing.
Read the byline.
By sword, by pig, by axe, bye-bye.
That's the tagline. That's so great. By sword, by pig, by axe, bye-bye.
Anyway, so obviously it's about a bunch of kids who go away for a couple of days, go get drunk and laid, but in the end they wind up all dying because this guy runs around with a hook.
He's a mutilator.
Anyway, Vincent Price. If you don't know who Vincent Price was, ask your parents. Vincent Price was synonymous with horror films.
This is the third volume of his films.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's good stuff. I mean, I think volumes 1 and 2 have the best of them. Now you start to get down to the not the dregs, but not his best.
Yeah.
But the good thing with Scream Factory is that they always do such a great job with this stuff. Master of the World is actually, you know what? Actually, Tower of London is my favorite one. But Master of the World does have an audio commentary. Tower of London has a new interview with Roger Corman, and Diary of a Madman looks good considering it's so old, and also Cry of the Banshee, which is from 1970. That has a pretty good high-definition new master. So if you love Vincent Price, again, not all these films are good. Tower of London is my favorite, but I would definitely check this out.
And we are now going to go into some Kino titles. Kino's released a whole bunch of new stuff. The two that I think are the best and most noteworthy are part of their F.W. Murnau collection, which includes Fritz Lang's Spies and Woman in the Moon. This is all German expressionist silent film stuff. And Spies is a big deal. Spies was only recently restored, not even in terms of making it look better, but the complete running time was just so fractured. And they wound up finding almost as much additional material as was originally thought to be the last remaining vestiges of the film. So the film went from being something like 95 or 100 minutes to 150 minutes. I mean, it almost doubled in length after they uncovered the new footage. And I actually went to a screening at the Academy right after they did this, where they actually gave you cues while you were watching the film as to where the new footage was and where the old footage was, and you could see where where the ellipses happened and what had actually been replaced and where what they'd lost. So you could sort of see where the story took these jumps and now had these new chunks in it. Really amazing stuff. Anyway, this is from 1928. 150 minutes of what may be the original serial thriller concept in film. It's just unbelievable. Tremendous music, really just wonderful, wonderful restoration. The score by Neil Brand is great on here. It's a piano score, and it's just absolutely perfect. This is a 2K digital restoration. And you also get a 72-minute documentary on the making of the film, and then the original German trailer, which is long. It's really, really cool. This thing is just the whole mad scientist serialized espionage thing is just done so beautifully. It's absolutely fantastic. And then Fritz Lang's Woman in the Moon is almost as good. This is from 1929. And and by the way, when we say these are from the F.W. Murnau collection, that doesn't mean they're Murnau films. These are Fritz Lang films, which were part of the Murnau library per se. So I don't want people to think that Murnau had anything to do with these, but they're just from the Murnau collection. So anyway, this was produced and directed by Fritz Lang the following year in 1929. And it is, in many respects, almost like taking not only Spies, but Metropolis an extra step. This is all about the first trip to the moon, and it is amazingly cool and really well done, and the production value and the set direction is really sort of amazing for 1929. I mean, you can tell the artifice, but when you realize just what went into it, I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary, and it's more than the silent trip to the moon. The original silent trip to the moon, which is all, just sort of camera tricks and whatnot. This is actually a little more scientifically credible, and he really makes an effort to legitimize it in some respect, and it's just got a cool vibe to it. So anyway, this also has a piano score by Javier Perez de Azpeitia, I guess is how you would pronounce it, 2K digital restoration, and a documentary, a short documentary, it's a documentary-ette, I guess you could call it, on how this is technically the first science fiction film. I wouldn't agree, but it makes an interesting case.
Wade,
Yes.
A Cop from 1988. This is an interesting film because, not that it's a great film, it's an okay film. It's a police procedural with James Woods. There's two names in it that make it interesting. The first name is James Ellroy, because it's based on his novel Blood on the Moon. James Ellroy, of course, gave us L.A. Confidential, and this is another slice of, L.A. noir with, corrupt cops going crazy and whatever. It was directed by James B. Harris. Now, James B. Harris, people might know, as an early
partner.
Collaborator with Stanley Kubrick.
That's right. It was Kubrick Harris Productions. They produced all that early stuff together.
So James B. and this is 1988. This is well beyond like his Kubrick's
1950s, The
guess,
Killing,
glory
and all
days,
that.
whatever.
Yeah.
So James B. Harris, he didn't do a lot of directing, but he did direct this, and it's really not that bad. So if you want a little piece of film history, James Ellroy, it's going to be good because he's such a great writer and knows L.A. so well with L.A. Confidential. James B. Harris with his tight connection to Stanley Kubrick, and of course James Woods, who plays crazy cops better than anyone, at least back then. Also, from the good folks at Kino Lorber, we have The Rosary Murders. This film is okay. It's with Donald Sutherland and Charles Durning. There's this guy who's running around killing nuns and priests. So, it's all about whether you're into this sort of thing. What I did like about it is that it was co-written by Elmore Leonard. Now, Elmore Leonard did not write the novel which it is based, but he did co-write the screenplay. Elmore Leonard is a great writer, but I tend to go with the films that are based on his books more than his for-hire stuff. So this is a little less successful for me, but The Rosary Murders.
And rounding out our Kino Lorber coverage, a bunch of action films from the 50s, 60s, 70s, movies that basically, usually, typically, and all of the artwork in all these, it's kind of funny. You can tell they're all from the same era because they all involve these, the artwork is always a picture of a bunch of guys all charging with guns blazing and usually helicopters and boats and tanks behind them. It's everything was sort of trying to the A-level stuff from that period was Bridge in the River Kwai and The Great Escape and The Dirty Dozen, Bridget Remagen, and then there's a whole lot of B-level stuff which is even below like where Eagles Dare and the Eastwood stuff. Iron Cross. There's another level below all of that, which is just guys just blowing stuff up, and it's all decent. It's respectable. The one that does not have guns, but may as well because it has swords. Swords are like guns. The Vikings with Kirk Douglas, one of the most ridiculous Viking movies ever made. There is nothing historically accurate or credible about this. It is just truly hysterical. It has once again Kirk Douglas and Tony Curtis together again. Before they did Spartacus, so not together again. But this is for you who've seen Spartacus, this is another pairing of the two of them. And I don't know. There's something just weird about putting Kirk Douglas and Tony Curtis in movies together. It never feels right. Neither of them feel period right. You know what I mean? Like Kirk Douglas,
they didn't have chef cleanse. They didn't
cleft
have
chins.
I actually said chef cleanse.
The microphone is aimed at a non-existent person.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so anyway, Richard Fleischer directed this. Fleischer, we talked about him last week. He comes in and does workmanlike jobs on just about everything that he did, but not really a distinguished director in any respect. But he did a lot of A-list movies. I mean, he did a lot of memorable stuff. The Vikings it's just silly. It's just Kirk Douglas. The only movie that's sillier than this is The Northman. Anyway, so look, it's a Viking movie with Kirk Douglas. What do you want? It's just, there's just nothing else to say about it. There's a featurette with Fleischer on here and some trailers, but otherwise it's just really kind of silly. It's just silly period stuff. Now here come the guys in gun movies. My favorite here is with Hugh O'Brian, who I always thought was a really underrated actor. Hugh O'Brian, James Mitchum, two really gritty guys, put guns in their hands and let them blaze away. That is macho stuff, but not nearly as macho as the man in the middle of the Ambush Bay trilogy. Mark, who is in the middle? Who is between Hugh O'Brian and Robert Mitchum?
Probably one of the baddest ass actors that ever lived, Mickey Rooney.
There's Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney is the only one. Look, I mean, you look at this artwork. This is what I love. James Mitchum he's looking cool, right? Like, I got these guys in my sights. Oh, Hugh O'Brian, he's getting his gun locked and loaded. Mickey Rooney is out of his mind. The gun is blazing. He's just insane. He's a mad dog. He's a mad dog.
He's Mickey Rooney.
It's Mickey Rooney. He's a mad dog. This is from 1966. Basically, it's they're trying to save General MacArthur. That's all it is. It's a World War II film, and it's kind of silly and fun at the same time. Then you've also got When Eight Bells Toll, based on an Alistair MacLean novel. Those things are always a bit of fun, and this is actually not bad. This is maybe a notch above because it has a really, really good cast. This is from 1971, a very young Anthony Hopkins. I think this was like the third or fourth film that he was in. Natalie Delon, Robert Morley, Jack Hawkins, who was in almost all these at the time. Vanessa Redgrave's brother, Corin Redgrave. Good stuff. Directed by a French director, Etienne Perrier, who gives it a little bit of a more kind of continental feel. Alistair MacLean wrote a lot of these, including the aforementioned Where Eagles Dare and Guns of Navarone. He wrote all that kind of stuff. And so you get this, you get a pretty cool kind of an espionage wartime thing about the essentially kind of like an espionage operation to prevent the stealing of gold bullion in the Irish Sea. That's basically the plot, and it's a lot of fun little twists and turns. And Anthony Hopkins is good then as he was now. And then Tony Curtis again, along with Frank Lovejoy and Mary Murphy, in the Stuart Heisler-directed Beachhead. This is from 1954. And is better than it has a right to be. This is a Marine story set in the Pacific Theater. It's not quite. You can tell it's a B movie, but it's like a B plus. I guess is maybe the best way to do it. Anyway, it's a bunch of guys fighting Japanese and guys on a mission. That's it. It's a war adventure, and Lovejoy was a pretty solid director from the period. He did a few things that were somewhat memorable. So it's if you like the stars, definitely check it out. And then lastly, The Passage, starring Anthony Quinn, James Mason, Christopher Lee, and Malcolm McDowell. And this is basically a World War II resistance story set in Spain and France around the Pyrenees. Malcolm McDowell is really particularly good in this, and Patricia Neal is actually quite good. A young Kay Lenz also shows up, which always makes me happy because we like Kay Lenz because she was in the Rod Stewart music video.
Which one?
Was it Infatuation?
Oh, was it I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was Infatuation. I think that's where Kay Lenz was in. It's fantastic. So anyway, this is 1979. This particular genre is getting a little old in the tooth at this point. Directed by J. Lee Thompson, kind of running to the end of his career at the time, but still, actually, as far as movies that have that 1960s, 50s, and 60s guys on a mission, World War II, Korean War sheen, it sort of caps the genre off pretty well. This may be the very last of those films that was made. Force 10 from Navarone, I think, was the very, very last one. Force 10 from Navarone, probably made about the same time with Harrison Ford. Did you ever see that?
Harrison
James Fox?
Ford.
Yeah, that was good. All right, and Mark, let's go into some Warner Archive stuff, if we could. I want to make mention really first, this is not a Warner Archive release, but this is a Warner catalog release on Blu-ray, never before on Blu-ray. I am elated. I know Mark does not share my affection for this film. Again, this is one of those movies that I worked when I was an usher at the theater, so I have a great fondness for it because I've seen this film at least 100 times, easily 100 times, maybe another 50 times on VHS. It is now on Blu-ray. And my daughter is going to, as soon as she is of age, and my wife is actually not in the room, I am going to expose her to the glories of Hoserama Strange Brew. Thank you, Bob and Doug McKenzie.
I know.
Why do you not like this movie?
It's just a bunch of guys going hosers, eh?
No, it's not. It's not. It's
There's
deep.
more.
This is
deep and meaningless.
It's deep and meaningful. This is like if Terrence Malick had done his version of Casablanca. It would be Strange Brew. Do you not understand that?
Wow.
Okay, anyway, this is Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas playing Bob and Doug McKenzie, the characters that they originated on SCTV, in a feature film that is so outrageously hilarious. They directed it, they wrote it. It's just beyond silly. They're a couple of Canadian beer drinking goofballs with a TV show, and they wind up getting involved in this whole bizarre caper with Max von Sydow. It's a whole beer-oriented caper. I won't even tell you exactly the plot because there's no point. But Max von Sydow is the bad guy. Paul Dooley is his henchman. And there's a whole silly frame-up in here and a court trial and an insane asylum. This movie is so beyond funny. And the whole opening, their little home movie of the post-apocalyptic future with, hey, fleshy-headed mutant, Rick Moranis wearing the jockstrap. Come on, how do you not love this?
Maybe I missed. I admit I might have missed the boat. You know what? SCTV to me was never as funny as SNL and some of the other stuff. No.
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Really?
Oh, I live for SCTV.
SCTV seemed more cultish. It was more of a cult thing.
More Canadian. It's definitely more Canadian.
And Canadians aren't funny, eh?
All right, so back to the Warner Archive. 2 more Blu-rays, Mark.
Oh, me.
Yes.
A Mighty Wind is directed by Christopher Guest. This was part of his little, his docu-comedy thing that he perfected and had a great run at. Obviously, the ones that I love are Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show is hilarious. Mighty Wind, which is this one, was good. For Your Consideration, which he did 3 years later, was the one that seemed like a misfire to me. And I'm like, I think that the whole docu-comedy thing might have run its course when it comes to Christopher Guest. And he hasn't really done much since, but Mighty Wind was very funny. It's really cute. And what's great about it is because all these guys are actually musicians, the music is great. Michael McKean is a musician. Harry Shearer is a musician. And obviously Christopher Guest is a musician. So the music is terrific. And it's all about this 60s era folk band, and so it's sweet and warm and funny, and even the title of Mighty Wind is a double entendre that shows you how clever it is. There's an audio commentary with Guest and Eugene Levy, really funny stuff. There's a half hour of additional scenes, including a couple extra songs. So A Mighty Wind is really great. It's a terrific film. Less terrific is a film that I was so young that I liked it because I didn't realize what bad films were back then. Ice Pirates. Ice Pirates stars Robert Urich, and Mary Crosby.
This is the worst movie. This was so horrendous.
Well, here's the thing: it's not supposed to be great. I mean, it's a bit spoofy.
It's very spoofy, but it's spoofy without being funny.
I know, but it's got a good cast. It has Angelica Houston was in this. Ron Perlman was in this. They're all so young looking. Anyway, it's about a bunch of swashbuckling ice pirates in space. What are you going to do? I would seriously pass on this. Mighty Wind, though, is definitely worth it.
All right, and then rounding out our Warner Archive coverage, 3 that are just regular DVD-Rs, MODs. This is the George O'Brien Western Collection, 9 films, if you like all those old George O'Brien programmers. There's just a ton of them on here. Lawless Valley, Trouble in Sundown, Bullet Code, Prairie Law. I mean, these titles are going to mean nothing to you. These are of interest only if you actually like George O'Brien and might have an affection for the genre in general. Otherwise, it's not that big of a deal. The 2 that are a little more significant, Robert Mitchum in The Angry Hills, which is a Robert Aldrich film that has not gotten enough praise over the years, from 1959, the year of Ben-Hur. And when you have a movie like Ben-Hur that opens in a year like that, it tends to overshadow everything else. But really, really good cast here, beautifully, beautifully made. This basically is a World War II adventure film with Robert Mitchum as a war correspondent in Greece. During the occupation period, the German occupation period, and you get a little touch of the Greek resistance story, and it's good. I mean, it's nothing. It's not unique for the genre, but it's a good solid entry in the genre. And then the other one is Take the High Ground, which was one of the best Richard Widmark performances that he has not gotten enough credit for. Directed by Richard Brooks. Produced by the great Dory Sherry. Really, really a lot of fun. Carl Malden is also in this, who's kind of like the best supporting actor that anybody could ever hope for. I mean, he was, if you wanted to make a movie feel serious, if you wanted to really, really, I mean, classic supporting actor, right? He never stole a scene. He never showed anybody up, but he just kind of came into a scene and he made everything better.
And he had a cauliflower nose.
Yeah, so good. Anyway. No, Richard Brooks, really, really good here, written by Millard Kaufman. I mean, it's A-list all the way across. And Richard Widmark, just absolutely fantastic. Really, really good kind of combat footage in here as well. It won an Oscar in 1953 for the screenplay, and very deservedly. So it's as far as war films from the 1950s go, anything of that pre-Bridge in the River Kwai period, when Kwai really kind of changed the ball game. It's really, really good. So always fun to discover those unheralded, unsung war films. And Richard Widmark, one of those guys that's just great in everything. Always really good in everything. All right, Mark, let's cover some foreign stuff. You are far more affectionate toward this film than I am. I find that thing kind of. I feel like this is a morally reprehensible movie that they were trying to guilt me into liking, and I resent that.
Well, I don't know that I would say I'm affectionate towards a film about something that is so bleak and depressing. But The Tribe is a film that I was really taken by. You know what it is? It's like I think we touched upon this a little bit last week. It's rare that you see a film that forces you to look at a movie a new way. It forces you to receive what a film has to say in a brand new way. And they did this in The Tribe, and this is out of the Ukraine. This is a film that is told completely in sign language, the whole thing. And there's no dialogue. It's all sign language. And the director, whose name I will not even attempt to pronounce, although the first name is Miroslav. That one I can get. Forget the last name. He just sticks to his guns, man. And I thought it was absolutely just an incredible. You know what it was? It was a great experience in terms of watching a film. So it's all about these kids at this home for the deaf, and it turns out that normally when you look at deaf kids, you think, oh, they're poor deaf kids. Their life is so poor. These kids are the most gigantic a-holes you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
They're gang members. They rob people. They're violent. They're just not nice kids.
They're horrible people.
So not only does it upend the way that you look at a film, because again, it's all sign language. You have to try to parse what they mean, but also it takes the cliche of like the poor angelic deaf kid. He's so wonderful, and it even turns that on its ear.
Yeah.
So based on those two, I thought this thing was really striking. I thought it was just, I mean, it's long. It's over 2 hours. But I thought The Tribe was one of just the more unique experiences of the last 10 years in terms of just watching a film.
Yeah, I guess. It's not pleasant. It's
no,
unique.
It's not pleasant. But,
it's unique.
Plenty of films aren't pleasant, but
Look,
you know.
I could have a unique experience watching a film if I had somebody if I had a dentist drilling a root canal while I was watching it.
All right,
but that wouldn't.
Don't say that because I have to have major. By the way, I have to have major dental work done, and and you know what? My dental insurance does not cover what they want to do because my dental insurance they think what I want to do is cosmetic.
Yeah,
which it is not. It is work that I need.
Then you argue that.
I'm going to try. I'm going to go through my. So get this: if I want to get everything done that the dentist wants me to get done, over $4,000. Now, 600 of the 4,000. Okay, you go laugh at me. 600 of the $4,000 is for sedation because I'm scared of dentists. So I'm like, it's okay. So 600. That's on me. But it's like $3,500 worth of dental surgery that insurance will not cover one penny of it.
And that's why I get my teeth cleaned every 6 months.
Now, there's a particular part of my mouth. This is very exciting stuff. There's a particular part of my mouth that's been a disaster area for most of my life, and like every 10 years it comes. I have an implant. I have a tooth.
Do you really?
Yes. And when I got the implant, it was so traumatic. Because I was awake, and obviously they anesthetize you. But literally, in installing this implant, the woman took this woman was the periodontist.
Sure.
She took a hammer and chisel, an effing hammer and an effing chisel, and was going poof, 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 to get the implant in. And it doesn't hurt because you're anesthetized, but you feel this creepy horror movie thing going on in your head and your skull. And I was like, I thought I was going to cry when it was done. I was like, I can't believe so I was scared of dentists for like 10 years. And so now I have to go back and get more work done.
There you go. Well, I am going to lavish praise on my favorite film of the year, which is out on Blu-ray. Thank goodness. This was an entry, it was in competition at the 2014 Cannes Film Festival. And it was released in 2015 to not enough fanfare by Sony Pictures Classics. I don't blame Sony Pictures Classics. They have always done a wonderful job with Zhang Yimou films. For whatever reason, this movie simply did not catch fire. It was, I don't know if it was the marketing. I don't know if it was the wrong time. I don't know what it was. But Zhang Yimou, of course, arguably my favorite director in the world right now, my favorite living director. And after his little period of, he sort of went wayward after his very gritty kind of neo-realistic Chinese films like Raise the Red Lantern and Judo and To Live and Not One Less. And there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful films. And then, of course, he started doing, the House of Flying Daggers and a lot of and Hero and a lot of these sort of more extravagant things, which he's doing again. He's got this big war film, this English language war film that's going to be coming out next year. And then he's with this film, he came back home again. He came back to the kind of filmmaking that he's always been excelled at. It's called Coming Home. Paired again with Gong Li, his one-time partner, who I think gives a performance that should have been nominated for an Academy Award. She is unbelievable in this movie. Here is basically the story. This is a story of a man who, during the Cultural Revolution, is a dissident. He has escaped. He is now a fugitive. He's on his way home, and he's on his way home to his wife and daughter, played by Gong Li. He is effectively turned in by his own daughter, who has been so indoctrinated by the system that when they get wind of his coming home, his daughter turns him in. The officials are able to capture him, and he and his wife only see each other at a distance. They call to each other at a distance at the train station before the officials haul him away again. Years later, daughter is grown. He is finally released, and he gets to go home again. He's considered a good citizen. And he goes home only to find out that for whatever reason, the trauma of that period has left his wife with amnesia, and she no longer recognizes him. And the rest of the movie is about him his daughter trying to reconcile herself that this is all her fault and that she somehow caused this. And with him trying to jog his wife's memory so that they can have that reunion, that incredibly cathartic reunification that we have wanted ever since that first frame, these two people calling to each other across a train station. If this doesn't sound like the most gut-wrenching, heart-searing melodrama you've ever heard. It is a magnificent film, incredibly well told. It is poetic, it is powerful, it is gut-wrenching, it is heartbreaking, and it has one scene in it. I will only tell you it's the piano scene. I make no qualifications on this. It is the single best directed piece of filmmaking that we have seen at any point in 2015. Nothing in Spotlight, nothing in The Revenant, nothing in any other film compares. Nothing compares from last year. Not The Big Short. Nothing. There is nothing that compares to this one scene in this film. It is the best bit of filmmaking you will see in any movie from 2015. So get yourself the Blu-ray of Zhang Yimou's Coming Home with Gong Li. It will just tear your heart out. It is an absolutely wonderful film.
And a good double feature with the other Coming Home with Jon Voight and Jane Fonda.
Well, which is a good film, but let's not go overboard.
Exactly. Okay, Labyrinth of Lies. Didn't we talk about this like a month ago or something? Labyrinth of Lies.
Labyrinth of Lies.
This is the German film.
Yeah.
This. We didn't talk about it.
No. You and I may have talked about it separately,
That's true.
During awards time. We did, in fact. You and I had that conversation. You were warning me off of it.
I was warning you off it because although the film has a very interesting premise, because after World War II ended and Germany lost, the government tried to pretty much wipe out any knowledge of Nazis from the German people.
Yeah.
The German people went through the late 40s into the 50s, not even realizing that there was like a Nazi Germany that killed millions.
Which is not a good thing, by the way. I mean, it's sort of like well-intentioned, but you inadvertently sow the seeds of that to come back again. But anyway.
You're erasing your own history.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is obviously before the internet and whatever. So it's like if the government says it didn't happen, I guess it didn't happen. And it's a horrible tragedy. So this is based on a true story about this one German prosecutor who begins to examine this case of a teacher who was identified as being an Auschwitz guard. And the prosecutor says, Auschwitz, what's that? Oh, there were Nazis. Oh, they killed people. Oh, my God. And it's a true story, And so the other people in his office and certain people in the government do not want him to pursue this case because it's going to open up all these old wounds that the government spent years trying to cover up. And of course, he has to because, it's history is history and you can't hide your history. So Labyrinth of Lies has a very interesting true story premise. My problem with it is that it is way too mainstream. This is a film that just it looks pretty, sounds pretty, melodramatic. It's just straight down the middle, almost too carefully written, almost too carefully acted. It needs to be just angrier and a little bit more subversive. It just feels like a John Grisham movie, like a movie based on a John Grisham novel. It just feels like that. I just felt like it was just the wrong way to go. But again, it's a very interesting piece of German history, which might be worth it to watch just to kind of get that out there. So that is Labyrinth of Lies. We have a couple other good foreign films to talk about. Victoria. Now, Victoria, don't get nervous. Victoria is a film. It is it's an hour and 38 minutes long. One take.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. Who knows whether there was some finagling going on with the one take? But
it's one of those.
In theory,
the Birdman thing.
Yes, in theory, it is a 2 hour and 20 minute film.
A lot of people prefer this to Birdman. A lot of people really thought this was like for the indulgence. That this was a more interesting exercise, but whatever.
Well, the thing is that Birdman is about Hollywood and actors and playing superheroes and basically millionaires making decisions. This is more about this one girl. She's a party girl. She's a runaway, and so she and her friends hit the town to party. And so they go in and out of nightclubs and restaurants, and she flirts with guys, and it's all done in one take. So, as a stylistic piece, it is definitely dazzling, but what's good about it is that there's good character development in it. The acting is really good. It throws us into it. There's some improvisation going on. At least I'm pretty sure there was some improvisation going on. You can kind of tell. So even if you take the stuntness out of it, it's still a pretty good film. So that's called Victoria. So definitely check that out. Also, now, I don't know if we've talked about Tinto Brass in the past. Tinto Brass.
Oh, we've talked a lot about Tinto Brass. All his movies are women in garters with their butts hanging out.
This movie actually has a woman's bare ass on the DVD cover.
Yes, that's
so you will not be able to buy this at Walmart.
No.
So Paprika By the way, Tinto Brass is still around.
I know.
I don't know when his last film was, but he's still around. Anyway, Tinto Brass did Paprika. This is a film about this young girl, this innocent, naive country girl who wants to help her fiance start his own business. So of course she decides to become a prostitute and work in a brothel.
Well, it's the same old story, right? I mean, it always happens that way.
Honestly, my mother, the time she spent in the brothel.
Hate it when that happens.
You know what? Look, I have to tell you something. I needed to be put through college, and that's what my mother did.
You want to talk about that real quick, or should I do this?
You do that.
Okay. So another Asian film this week, a Korean film, also one of my favorite films of last year. I guarantee you I'm the only person who put this on a top 10 anywhere because nobody else saw this, and it really breaks my heart. This is from Welgo. This is a magnificent, unbelievably great movie. You have to do yourself the favor of seeing this. It is the greatest movie, the strangest film with the most bizarre pedigree. It's called The Beauty Inside. Now here's the basic rundown of The Beauty Inside. This was based on a web series. There's like a serialized web series of years ago. I think it's early 2000s. Which was junk. It was horrible. Based on the same premise. This takes this horrible web series with this premise that I remember it being advertised on buses at the time. The Beauty Inside. And I just thought that's the stupidest sounding thing. And the show was dumb and it made no sense. And somehow, magically, this thing becomes this incredible. This amazing art film, this Korean art film. They saw something in this concept that nobody else has seen, and it is just absolutely spectacular. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the director's name. I will absolutely destroy it. It's just going to be bad if I try to pronounce it. But anyway, and so I apologize. I'm not good with Korean names. But The Beauty Inside, here's the premise. It is about an individual, a man, who wakes up every morning as someone else. Some different races, different ages, different gender. Every morning he is a different person. And he's reclusive and he makes furniture, so he doesn't have to interact with people. But every morning he's a different person. And sometimes he's even a different nationality. And he'll call, his mom knows about this, and he has a friend who works with him at the business who knows about this, who's accustomed to the fact that every time he comes to sort of do some paperwork and do a little bit of business, he's going to see a completely different individual, but he knows it's the same person. And the question is then, when he falls in love with a woman, how does he have a relationship with her when, as soon as he falls asleep, he knows he's going to wake up and be someone else? How do you even develop or maintain a relationship under those circumstances? This thing is so mind-blowing, so beautiful, so incredibly well executed, and it's like it has to be like 50 or 60 different actors that play the part. And there's actual continuity. You as an audience member grow to love this character, even though you know that every 5 or 10 minutes you're going to be seeing a different actor playing the character. It's amazing. It's just breathtaking that something that would talk about turning a sow's ear into a silk purse. Really amazing. The Beauty Inside on Blu-ray from Welgo. Don't miss it. It is absolutely wonderful.
Wade Major.
Love it.
Partisan is kind of an interesting little movie with Vincent Cassel, who doesn't always make interesting movies, although he's always an interesting, if slightly annoying actor. This is the debut feature from an Australian director named Ariel Kleiman, and this is about this. It takes place in this environment. It's not really named. You don't really know where it is. I don't think it's in the future, but you just don't know. Where the kids who live in this environment are trained from birth to be assassins. So the main character is this 11-year-old kid named Alexander, and he is being trained to be an assassin. You see him training by killing people with paintball guns, to kind of practice. And as such, it does have a lot of black humor. So it's a little bit like Dogtooth. If you saw Dogtooth, a lot of humor in that. So it's this really interesting sort of like alternate universe world. And so Vincent Cassel sort of befriends this kid, and it's all about their little adventure. So Partisan is definitely a cool movie. The cinematography is great. It's just a very gray, decaying, grimy looking, almost like Eastern European sort of locale. Casal is really good in it. The 11-year-old kid is really good in it. So, so it's a movie called Partisan, and I think you guys should definitely check it out.
All right, and we'll a few more foreign Blu-rays I will blow through real quickly. Before we start to wrap this up, we might get to a couple of television titles, but if not, we'll be good. A couple of really interesting movies by Agnes Varda on a double feature release Blu-ray from Cinelicious Pix. And these were both released actually just a few months ago theatrically together. One is Jane B. par Agnès V., which is a profile of Jane Birkin by Agnes Varda. And then the other one is Kung Fu Master, starring Jane Birkin. These were made back-to-back. And Kung Fu Master is kind of it's a May-December relationship movie, kind of a Harold and Maude kind of a thing, with Jane Birkin as a woman who winds up having a love affair with a younger boy. It takes its name from the video game Kung Fu Master, which the younger boy plays. Is basically a colleague of her, or a classmate of her son. 40-year-old woman, 14-year-old kid. Should be really kind of troubling. The kid is played by Mathieu Demy, who is the son of Agnes Varda and Jacques Demy, her husband at the time, who was of course, director of Umbrellas of Cherbourg and many other great films. Charlotte Gainsbourg is also in the film, who was Jane Birkin's daughter by Serge Gainsbourg. So it's a lot of French showbiz royalty in this film, but a really, really interesting movie. Very nicely done. Still has all of that kind of cool new wave style to it and sensibilities that Agnes Varda brought to everything. And then Jane B. par Agnès V. is really a very interesting look at Jane Birkin. Talking about her, it's got some weird little kind of fictional sequences in it that won't weave into the rest of it. It's a very interesting celebrity profile, so definitely worth checking out on Blu-ray. And then we also have a not-so-great film called Paulette, which is a movie about an old French lady who basically becomes a marijuana grower and a drug dealer in order to be able to make ends meet. It means to be funny and to have kind of social commentary at the same time. This is from Cohen, who I love dearly, but I don't particularly love this movie very much. It just feels like a minor French film, minor French comedy that doesn't probably have much of an appeal to an American audience. Did not do particularly well at the time. And then we also have, on Blu-ray, we talked about this some weeks ago, the Eric Romer film, The Marquise of O, from Film Movement Classics. That won the grand prize at the Cannes Film Festival. That is actually out on Blu-ray now, as well as DVD. And then, most significantly, a really, really big deal, 3 Taviani brother films that were previously out on DVD ages ago, never released since. Now they're out in amazing 3-film Blu-ray collection from the Cohen Film Collection. This is fantastic for film fans. If you love the Taviani brothers, these are 3 of their best films. Padre Padrone, The Night of the Shooting Stars, and Chaos, K-A-O-S. Everything that makes the Tavianis wonderful is in these films, especially Night of the Shooting Stars, which is sort of their quintessential film, and Padre Padrone, which is nearly as good. This is a great little small box set, 3 films from Cohen Film Collection in Blu-ray. Really, really beautiful. And with that, I think, actually, you know what, lastly, Mark, let's just make a mention of Game of Thrones' complete 5th season. As the thing starts up again, I'm so over the Game of Thrones thing, but this is out on DVD and Blu-ray. It won 12 Emmys, man. What's up with that? Is it that good? Is it really? Do you think it's that good?
Yeah, people love that stuff. It's a phenomenon.
Yes. All right. Well, anyway, so that's Game of Thrones Season 5. It is out with giant gobs of extras. The Blu-ray, obviously, is the one that you want to get. It's got tons and tons of featurettes and documentaries and a guide that just really, really fun stuff. They really, really blow this thing out. So anyway, load that up. That comes in Blu-ray and Ultraviolet, and that way you can watch your Game of Thrones, get it on your phone and your iPad and anything else and anywhere else you want. We'll be back next week.